Hey guys, welcome back to RHR Jen. I'm so glad you're here. Guys, I have such a good show for you. We are continuing on with Betrayal. That's right. I am covering chapter 2 and chapter 3 in this episode. Go back and watch my last episode with the prologue and chapter 1 in it. But I'm so excited to dive in, and I've seen your comments. Thank you for that. And I've seen some questions. So if you have questions going forward, leave them in the comments and I'll try to address it in a future episode. One of the questions I got a lot of is this new information in this book? And a lot of how is the book? The book is awesome. I'm loving it. And it's not just because I love Tom Bower. I truly am thoroughly enjoying this book. I really am. And I'm finding it so exciting. I know there was like one review that came out that said it was boring. I honestly do not find that to be the case at all. I'm really enjoying it so far. Again, I'm 4 chapters in and I'm absolutely loving it. I'm reading it in real time so that way I can react to it and have it fresh in my mind as I'm reading it. So I can tell you these 2 chapters are explosive. Just so you know, chapter 2 is Global Celebrity, where it goes into the wedding. And chapter 3 is the tea party, which is what took place after the honeymoon when they had tea with William and Catherine. That get your finger out of my face episode. All right. So we're going to get into that. The other question I got a lot is it new information? Yes, I do believe it is new information. So it's, according to the prologue, he was picking up around the time Her Majesty the late Queen passed away and going from there. But in these beginning chapters, he is going back and kind of covering some of that. This is my opinion. My opinion is that Tom Bower is very smart in the way he does this. He not only expressly says things from many sources, he covers all his bases, but it's also in the things that he's not saying. To me, I'm reading this as he's going back and covering some of the allegations that Harry and Meghan have made along the way. I've definitely heard some of these things come up, like who made who cry and all that stuff. He goes back and really addresses some of that stuff. And some of it, yes, he did cover in Revenge, but I feel like he's got a fresh perspective on it. And I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I really am. I can't get enough of it. I can't wait to keep going. I can't wait to see what else he says about every single detail. I'm really soaking it all up. And I hope you are too. I hope you're enjoying my recaps. So if you have more questions like that, leave them in the comments below. But let's continue on, shall we? I'm so excited. So this is chapter 2. Chapter 3. I just want to remind you as we get started, I do have my new merch available. I have the flock, which I love so much, both the flock and the merch. I think it turned out so cute. And I have I Give Up. It's something I often say when covering Harry and Meghan. So, and in my real life, I say that sometimes, like, I give up. I can't. And I'm waving the white flag here, the poor little goose, but I just thought it was so fun. So those are available in mugs of different colors, shirts of different sizes, stickers, all the above. So check that out if you're interested in my merch. Okay, let's dive into this, shall we? I'm so excited to get into this. Okay. Now let's go with chapter 2, picking up with Global Celebrity. So the overall theme of this chapter was Meghan marrying Harry. Okay. Now, there's a huge takeaway. There's many from this one that I really love. There's a huge takeaway from this one that I really loved. And as I explained in the first video, I have so many notes written down, so much highlighting that I'm going to be looking down. Normally I try to look right at the camera. I'm going to be looking down. It's the only way to keep myself straight. And I did hear you loud and clear. Some of you guys, I cannot read directly from the book. I've been asked that several times. I cannot due to copyright, but I can give you a few more quotes if that will help. I can do that. So let's get into that. So one of my favorite takeaways from this chapter, and this was a great chapter, like I say, I really enjoyed it. One of my favorite takeaways from this one was, again, the brilliance of Tom Bower. He's clapping back, I believe, at Harry and Meghan and their claims of Meghan was thrown to the wolf, fed to the wolves, whatever the stupid quote was that she gave, and that she wasn't given any guidance about how to be a royal, how to be a working member of the royal family, that sort of thing, right? That's something that they have previously claimed, I believe, on several occasions, but I've definitely heard them say things like that. Well, Tom Bower's like, no. And we've heard from several. We've heard from Tom Bower in Revenge. We heard from Cordia's talked about it. I believe Lady C talked about it. And just common sense. If you're entering the royal family, they don't want you to look like an idiot. So, of course, in my opinion, they're going to give you some sort of formal training. It's been alleged that Her Majesty the late Queen, I miss her so much. Even talking about this and reading about her, I'm like, oh, I miss her so much. But Her Majesty the late Queen had allegedly offered, like, Sophie to help Meghan transition into being a working royal. And Meghan was like, no, thanks. I have Harry. I believe that's the alleged quote. Well, anyway, so this dives a little further into that. So again, yes, it does sound like it's repeating the past, but he's adding on more, in my opinion, to dispute a lot of the nonsense that those two peddle. So in this case, he details how Edward Lane Fox, who is was Harry's private secretary, okay, Samantha Cohen, who was appointed by Her Majesty the late Queen to help Meghan, and an unnamed official. He refers to this official and does not say who it is. Okay. These three people all supposedly sat down with Meghan and tried to explain the royal family. It sounds to me like they could see that she was not getting it or interested in getting it, that it was not about her, that it was about, the British public and how, how the royal family works. Meghan was not interested, not at all. So it's interesting to me. So they go into like that Edward Lane Fox had prepared a 30-point dossier for Meghan. Okay. And really went into covering every possible question aspect of royal life, according to Tom Bower. Okay. It's explained how it all works. That he goes into like how if you're patrons of hundreds of organizations, how does that work? How does the royal family help people? How do you help these charities? How do you just all this? How do you embody the heart of British society? And I would love to see this presentation. I'd love to learn all this stuff. I don't know about you, but I find that so completely fascinating. And one of the million reasons I do love the royal family. It's just like this gift that they have. And I think it's so interesting. So it sounds like I'm going to say at least three. He specifically names these three, but I'm sure it was more than that. But at least three, plus all the members of the royal family, tried to help Meghan be prepared. Because again, who has more incentive to lie here? I would say Harry and Meghan do. Because it's not in the best interest of the royal family for them to look, for her especially, to look, I don't know if dumb is the right word, rude, whatever, uneducated, learned. I don't know what word, what's Meghan's favorite word? Learns. Oh, I didn't explain this. Hello, you glitter gremlin. I love these Instagram pep talks. They start off with, hello, you glitter gremlin. And that makes me laugh. So today I'm hello, you glitter gremlin. Okay, anyway, I digress. So it's just interesting. It's things like that. I really enjoyed that, going into that these three people really spent time and made her all these. This guy made her a dossier. Samantha Cohen was appointed by Her Majesty the Queen to explain how it works, including things like the monarch's neutrality, the way that the Queen's genius was to disguise her beliefs by never revealing an opinion, things like that, that we're familiar with the royal family. The unnamed official explained that, quote, you're not just marrying Harry Windsor, you're marrying the British Constitution. So it's things like that. They really tried with her, but they go into how in Tom Bower's, all of this is Tom Bower's opinion. I don't have to keep saying that. You get it. According to Tom Bower, you get that. Okay. So according to the book, Meghan saw herself as the center of every situation. That's not just hyperbole. He goes into example after example. It's fascinating. Meghan saw herself at the center of it all. The talk of hierarchy would pass right over her. So he kind of made it sound like he wasn't it. again, it sounds like she just wasn't interested. It's more that Harry couldn't understand and she wouldn't understand. So that's how I interpret that. She would decide her actions for herself, and if the palace imposed constraints, then she would have the rules changed. Okay. So the interesting other part of this section goes into, again, it's not they he did a lot more about the courtship and all that in the first book and all of it, but he goes into how, is it Cressida? I never say it right. Cressida had grown tired of Harry and his, what's it, paranoia, his frenzy over the media, and his constant blaming the media and his family for everything. So he goes into how when Meghan met Harry, he talks about how she had done extensive research. He specifically cites scrambling through Google, newspaper profiles, all this stuff, and was able to prey on his vulnerabilities. Okay. So that's so interesting because, again, what was their claim? I had to Google. I didn't know who he was. Okay, sure. I'm sure I do believe that you had to Google him because you already knew who he was, but you were Googling what his likes were and how to make him fall for you. But again, I don't find Harry innocent in all this. He sounds like a nightmare. And the more I read this, the more I'm convinced that Harry was just looking for a reason. He had all these grudges of the way that William was prepping to be the king, and just, the differences with all that. So he couldn't stand it. And so with that came increased hostility and increased paranoia. And so Meghan perfectly would play into that sort of thing. So that's completely interesting to me. Let's see. Oh, this was interesting too. So in the lead up to the wedding, Tom Bower goes into her relations with her family. As we know how that turned out. They talk about how it was particularly bad with her father. Now, the interesting part of this one is that there is a quote in here that Meghan allegedly said. He didn't say who she said it to, but she said it in front of an audience. The quote is, "I hope my father won't be coming to the wedding." So how about that? Again, I think he's doing this to fly in the face of a lot of the stuff that Harry and Meghan have said. According to the book, Thomas Markle was not sent an invitation, nor did Meghan ask a British embassy official to offer him any help. He points out that is something she did for Doria, so that's interesting. On an infuriating note in this chapter, Meghan, as the wedding approached, it sounds like was making more and more decisions on her own and not consulting anybody. And they were trying to explain to her that's not how this works. We work together. You don't just do that. Well, when she started doing that to Her Majesty the Queen was very displeased about this and let them know that she was very displeased in how things were being handled. Well, Harry then retorted that, quote, Meghan was being treated badly. So again, it just shows you the state of mind of, I want to call him every name. You can leave me a comment and let me know what name we should call him. But what state of mind he was in and how he's no victim. He's no victim. I don't like pretending like he's under her spell. Yes, to a degree, maybe if you believe, I do believe, I'm not diagnosing, I believe she's a narcissist. So I get that. But also, I don't like thinking that he's not responsible as well. He treated his family the same way she did. He's just as much a part and just as much guilty, and sometimes more guilty because it is his family. He should have stood up to her. He didn't. But by him feeding into, they were feeding into each other. She seemed like she seems like she had this need to be the center of everything. And he had this need to be, I don't know, I guess in his mind, I'm not saying it's right, but vindicated for something, for some grievance or other. So they were kind of feeding into each other. It sounds like she was making him feel like, yeah, they are treating you bad. And he'd be like, yeah. Just like we saw in the Netflix Harry and Meghan, is that Pap on the scooter? And he's like, where? Okay. So they seem to they bring out the worst in each other. Okay, this was a very juicy, very interesting part of the story that I had not heard. You ready for this? They talk about, it was around the time of the wedding. Part of it is, it's standard. They said that when marrying into the royal family, so like in this case, Meghan had a 45-minute visit to the headquarters of the College of Arms. And it's on the Queen's orders. She was supposed to have her own coat of arms. She was to work with this historian designed by Thomas Woodcock. He was the Garter Principal King of Arms. Okay. And in his position, he was there to help her through every aspect of this. Okay. So Woodcock's task was to prevent any embarrassments, but it goes into how Meghan's request was absolutely unprecedented. You ready for this? Do you know what she asked for on her coat of arms? I'm going to read you this quote because I thought this pretty much sums up Meghan. Convinced that she had been, and this is on page 20 if you want to read along, convinced that she had been created a duchess in her own right, unrelated to Harry being the Duke, she told Woodcock, the designer of the coat of arms, or the helper, I want on the coat of arms a songbird with its tongue cut out. Woodcock was flummoxed, and basically they had to talk her down, and she agreed to a nightingale, but without the image of it being forcibly silenced. So you tell me what you think, but I certainly think that's her planning, laying it all out and plotting it out in advance. We had already heard in the other book, Revenge, that allegedly there were talks of Oprah wanting to talk to Meghan around, it may have been around the time of the wedding. I think it was right before the wedding, around that time. And Meghan said, not yet. Not yet. And I do question, because I think Meghan would want to talk to Oprah anytime, but that would play into the idea that she can't talk to her yet because she was still with the royal family. But if she was plotting her escape, freedom flight, whatever you want to call it, that would be something that they would say, right? Not yet. Isn't that horrible, though? Again, the idea that the family is welcoming you in, throwing you this huge, lavish wedding. You don't want anybody's help or advice. Beyond that, you're being rude and petulant, and even with the special honor of being able to design your coat of arms, you want a bird with its tongue cut out depicted on it. Almost like you're setting the stage to play victim in the future. Okay. They referred to her wedding as a feast of self-celebration. Can you think of a more apt description? I cannot. I think that's perfection. Again, a reminder that wedding cost 32 million pounds. This whole chapter ties back into the chapter name Global Celebrity, and how by marrying into the royal family, it would, or so she thought, make her into that, but she didn't understand the hierarchy and how that worked. It's not quite the same as this Hollywood thing that she was trying to chase. Now, he does point out in this chapter that she was on the verge of losing her job on Suits. And also he points out she was on the verge of losing her relationship with Corey. Almost, if you thought about it, like she was still in a relationship with Corey when she started up with Harry. We've heard that several times before. All right, let's go into chapter 3, Tea Party. This one's juicy. This is a lot of William and Catherine stuff. Let's talk about that. Okay, so the very first line of this chapter is a quote that says, if you don't mind, get your finger out of my face. That's what Meghan is supposed to have said to Prince William. Juicy. Okay. Oh, I want to be a fly on that wall. I want to be there to say, go, William, get her. But I do feel like, again, we're seeing that play out in real time now, because, I mean, we've seen where Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been stripped. There's a precedent for it now. Go ahead and strip those titles. Just saying. All right. I think that's great. So let's talk about this chapter because again, it's so juicy. They talk about William and Catherine's dislike of the situation. William specifically felt like, of course, Harry's engagement had gone too fast. A interesting point that was made in this one is Meghan's absolute disrespect toward William and Catherine. Again, how it played up Harry's insecurity of the two of them, how it's almost like he didn't know he was supposed to dislike them as much until Meghan came along, but that he had been holding resentment, especially toward William. I mean, think no further than the William got the bigger breakfast sausages and spare. I mean, he shows it himself. He shows his cards. Oh, here you go. So this was interesting. They talk about Meghan again, where she did not listen or care to understand about what the real deal was with Prince Harry and things like how much he actually earned and what perks were available to him. She figured out to her sadness that Harry's allowance was, quote, less than a Hollywood B-movie actor, end quote. Oh, that's too funny. All right. I mean, I don't feel sorry for the guy at all. I just think that's funny to somebody like her who, by all accounts, seemed to be marrying for what she thought was status and then completely sad, or not sad, annoyed because, oh, she married the wrong brother. Not that the other was ever a choice or an option, but you get what I'm saying, that she would be upset by that. It's kind of funny. All right. So he brings back up this meeting and Meghan showing up in ripped jeans to William and Catherine. And he makes a good point that I really hadn't thought about, how it's just completely incomprehensible because Meghan would not have gone to something like the Kentucky Derby in ripped denim. And yet she showed up to these places like the first Invictus games in ripped denim. Like it was totally fine. It's just kind of weird. So I thought, I don't know why that stuck with me, is yeah, he makes a good point because she even has gone to these dumb polo matches of Harry, these small ones in California where maybe it would make more sense to wear ripped jeans or something like that. Not that I think that that's ever a good idea, but you get what I'm saying. But she's dressed like Pretty Woman for that. But then for this, okay, sure. So then we go into more of her failing to take on the royal protocol. Again, it mostly focuses around they call them the Fab Four. I know they were called that for a very short time, but the fallout between the brothers and, of course, Catherine and Meghan. But it also goes into the lead up to that and how she didn't see things like the curtsy. She didn't understand why you have to curtsy to other royals in public or just anywhere, because they even talk about that Harry would curtsy to Her Majesty the Queen when it was just them, and he would say, Your Majesty Granny, while tipping his head to her. It's a sign of respect. And I thought it was interesting because he goes on to explain the reason that they do that as well is it preserves the royals' aura. I never said that right. It preserves the royals' aura. So on page 25, this was juicy. I really enjoyed this part. They go into how Meghan would absolutely not, she was unwilling to curtsy to Catherine. I think that's so funny. I mean, how full of yourself are you? I promise you, if you let me be in the same room with Catherine, I would give the biggest, most respect. No, not like Meghan on the show. I'd say I'd give the most respectful curtsy to everybody in that room. I'd curtsy every single one of them. I would accidentally curtsy the people I don't even have to curtsy because it's a show of respect. If I'm invited to your house and your rule is to take off your shoes in your house, I'm doing that. It's a sign of respect. If the rule is I'm going to curtsy you as part of the family, if I'm a willing, joiner of said family or coming over, whatever, I'm going to do it. As long as it's not physically harming anybody, who cares? So if it's that, hey, Jen, you can have tea with Catherine, but you have to curtsy her, absolutely. I would practice. I would make sure I don't look like a fool, and I would do it with as much grace as I could muster. I think most of us would do that. And we understand there are just things that you do I know this is different, but there are things that you do for even your family that you might not want to do, but it's a sign of respect, right? I don't necessarily want to talk to so and so at family gatherings about whatever it is, politics, but I'm going to keep a level head. I'm going to just make peace and I'm going to be respectful because that's what you do. Meghan never intended to do that. And again, not just Meghan, Harry as well. Sounds like they're so full of themselves. It's just sickening, sickening. Because I think about all the chances that they had, all the opportunities. And again, they just squander them because they think they are better. It's disgusting. They go into how Meghan on page 25 believed that she was a more fitting future queen than Catherine. Just let that sink in. She thought she'd be better at it. Okay. No. No. Never. I can't even imagine that because again, I love our Catherine so much, but beyond that, no. No. Never. I think about Her Majesty the Late Queen and the legacy and all the, the selflessness and the wonderfulness of her and just, yeah, the antithesis of everything that is Meghan. Okay. Let's see here. Then it goes into Meghan just didn't seem to understand that she could not compete with Catherine, the future queen, nor could she accept that her task was to support her. That's a direct quote on page 25. So she could not accept that her task was to support her. She would never do that. And again, that's where, had she actually bothered to listen or try to understand the role, it would have been explained to her, but she didn't. So I would say that's more evidence that she set out for it to fail from the beginning and laying the groundwork of playing victim, that whatever, they were the ist words and whatever she could use to make it sound like it was not her being awful, that it was the other way around. Disgusting, honestly. There was more. I don't want to go too far into this because he did, I thought, a more thorough job in the first book about the dress fittings and who made who cry. But he did supply more evidence that it was Catherine got upset and teary-eyed at a dress fitting, and it was over Princess Charlotte's bridesmaid dress, and that the dress had become a lightning rod for acrimony between Meghan and Catherine, and that Meghan was being, it sounds like she was just being a nightmare about all of it. And Catherine was dealing with all this and trying to play nice. And because she wasn't being heard and all this, and it just led to one thing to another. And she ended up having to have Charlotte's dress recut. And it was just a disaster. They even go into how, I love this, how Givenchy, Meghan's dress designer, Claire Waite Keller, had produced, the quote is, what was considered a poorly fitting wedding dress for Meghan. Absolutely agree with that. Absolutely. Similarly, the dresses for the bridesmaids. So that was the issue that they ran into. They had to be recut. And it sounds like Meghan was being more and more rude over the text messages where they were trying to figure out how to get the dress situation fixed. It was also coming to a head because of allegations of how Meghan was treating staff. Okay, so Meghan's attitude during this time, during the refitting of the dress, it provoked Catherine, and that's what caused the tearful outburst, not only about the dress itself, but it also had to do with the, quote, numerous complaints of Meghan's treatment toward her staff. That was something I remember reading before that Catherine and William took very seriously. And if I recall correctly, a lot of that same staff ended up going to work for William and Catherine after the fact. So again, if nothing else, if you just look at people's behavior, if they were so unhappy with Meghan and Harry, as I suspect, and as it's being spelled out here, then it makes sense that they would go over to William and Catherine, and it shows the difference in treatment. Because if they were willing to leave, if they're willing to leave Meghan and Harry I'm surprised they didn't leave the royal family, but a lot of these people were working up toward other positions. So imagine you've worked for years for the royal family, you're trying to work to a specific position, and you have to be stuck with those two, and it's just awful, and you're being treated a certain way. You would be so tempted to leave, but if you're working towards something, you wouldn't want to. So my point is, it just kind of backs up the story that they sound like they were awful to the staff, because a lot of staff didn't just leave. They ended up going to work for William and Catherine. So they didn't want to leave, but they, again, were in this terrible situation, it sounds like. Even Her Majesty the late Queen were getting disturbing reports of Meghan and the way that she allegedly spoke to staff, including in a harsh boss-like manner. And let's see here. It goes into how Meghan was puzzled by this, and it was lost on her. Again, she just thought that she had a better way of doing things and was not interested in learning the correct way of doing things. Well, then it goes back to the tea at hand, the tea party that he's referring to in the title. And that during this, what was supposed to be a reconciliation tea party, Meghan started abruptly interrupting Catherine. And this is where we get Catherine is trying to draw attention to the allegations of Meghan being awful to the staff and not liking the way that the dress fittings, etc., were handled. Well, this is where allegedly Meghan says that the cause of their problems between Meghan and Catherine were, quote, because of your hormones. Miss Feminist is blaming a woman's hormones for her having what sounds to me like valid complaints about the way staff were being treated and allegations of Meghan, treating people awfully, and Meghan dismisses it because of hormones. Again, imagine if a male member of staff or anybody said to Meghan, oh, are you upset because you have PMS? It's the same thing. She would just be like through the roof and screaming it from the rooftops that they were the ist words or misogynist, whatever word you want to pick that's trendy. And out of Meghan's word salad, she would be through the roof over that. So, but yeah, allegedly she said because of your hormones, but then she went on to say, quote, it's no big deal. It's baby brain. She said that to Catherine. This is after Catherine had Prince Louis. Well, we love William so much. Prince William stood up for Catherine and said, that's rude. That's where this really came to a head. That's rude. He scorned Harry that his wife had crossed the line. I absolutely agree with that. Well, this is where you see the cracks in Harry, because according to this book and everything else in our brains, the deal was that Harry believed that everyone, including his brother and the royal family and everyone, had a hostile agenda against him and Meghan. That is a direct quote from the book. Everyone had a hostile agenda against him and Meghan, and that he lived in a palace of lies, something like lies and liars. Okay. Again, he and Meghan, incapable of telling the truth, but they love to call everybody else lies and liars. Okay, this is where it gets even nuttier. So then in their deluded brains, Harry and Meghan, this point, Tom Bowers, I'm on page 28, talking specifically about Harry. Harry has convinced himself that Catherine was fearful because Meghan, quote, had the edge. What edge? Harry doesn't know. Harry probably doesn't even know what the word edge means. But anyway, he believed that Meghan had the edge. She was the top dog, unwilling to compromise. What? Again, they don't understand how the royal family works? And then Harry further believed that Catherine had spurned Meghan's offer of friendship. It sure doesn't sound like Meghan was interested in friendship whatsoever to me. I don't know about you, but I certainly don't hear it that way. Then Harry's delusion was fed that the media was colluding to glorify Catherine. They couldn't see, this is my interpretation, my opinion, Meghan and Harry couldn't see the goodness in Catherine. They believed that it was all the media doing this, pushing out this narrative, and it was yay, Catherine, and boo, Meghan. That's not it. People can just see, because they have eyeballs and brains, the wonderful things that Catherine does, the awful things that Meghan does. Hello. But Harry can't see it or doesn't want to see it, so he just believes it's the media. Again, this is this eternal loop we're in. Meghan thinks she's the center of the universe. Harry thinks the media is evil and colluding with his family, and that he and Meghan are victims. I mean, again, they bring out the absolute worst in each other always. So there was some I believe, this is just my opinion, the reason that some of this Catherine stuff was brought up is, one, to again further set the record straight that Meghan was not interested in working at all with the royal family. She couldn't stand the idea of being second, well, not even second, but behind Catherine, in terms of the rankings and stuff, and how the future worked, of course. Well, I believe that this is brought up because I hate to even talk about, but that awful book that Plastic Man wrote, in my opinion, it was with the help of Meghan, the Endgame book, remember? They were so horrible to Catherine. I've talked about this at length. It really bothered me. They really put her down in that book and basically just called her looking pretty in a dress and not offering much more. Well, Tom Bauer here talks about that. How, not that, but how Harry seemed to sympathize with the descriptions of Catherine as, quote, the plastic princess. Again, emphasizing that she looks a certain way and she's meant for breeding, but not much else. It's really a disgusting and awful categorization, I think, or description of somebody. It's dehumanizing. It really is. And again, I'd like to point out the hypocrisy, because Meghan beats this drum of feminism, and yet we just heard where she's talking about allegedly calling Catherine baby brain, talking about her hormones, and then talking about, or maybe through Harry, they're talking about her looks only and not having much else going on for her, and that she's there for breeding. That's truly disgusting. It really is. And awful, and an awful categorization of anybody. That's dehumanizing. And of course, those two are involved in it. Ugh. Harry then goes on to hint that his brother had married for duty and not for love. Again, we've heard him. He straight up said that in Spare. I don't think he said about duty, but he said that he was the only that truly married for love. He put down his, Her Majesty the late Queen's marriage. He put down his father's marriage. He put down his brother's marriage. He put down everybody. He's just awful. Let's see here. To wrap up this chapter, so William at this point asked Meghan for an apology for Catherine, and then he struck another blow. Meghan, he said, quote, was a difficult person who made enemies of half the staff. I would go on to say, was it half the staff? I think it was more than that. But anyway, the problem was, so Harry interrupted, okay? Harry believed that the problem was caused by William's, quote, parroting the media's lies. That is such a Harry thing. Again, bury his head in the sand, blame his brother, blame his family, blame the media. Again, it's a cycle of itself, not learning anything. And then finally, the chapter ends with Meghan's hating people who refuse to recognize her importance and wish to destroy those standing in the way of her stardom. I mean, again, can you think of a more perfect line to describe Meghan? I think that's exactly it. I think it's just more example of those two bringing out the absolute worst in each other. But yeah, that's it. That is chapter 2 and 3. And I'm telling you, this book is fantastic. I'm loving this. I hope you are too. I'm going to go ahead and edit this and get this up as soon as possible. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Again, if you have questions or questions about the book or questions for me that you want me to address in a future episode, let me know those and I'll do my best. Highly recommend the book. I do keep getting asked, how do you get the book? You're going to have to look into that. It's different in every country. I'm not exactly sure. I had heard Amazon UK had the book, and then now I'm hearing in America it's not available. It's showing sold out. I don't quite understand. You're just going to have to maybe talk to each other, do some Googling, because I'm really not sure. I'd heard some people say that they're able to maybe get it through Audible. Some people are saying, I think like Australia gets it at the end of next week, things like that. So I wish I could help you. I can't help you there, but definitely continue to look into it. We want to blow up this book. And I know it was a #1 bestseller. We want to keep it there. So grab this book. Highly recommend it. You won't be disappointed. And I hope you're enjoying my coverage of it. I cannot wait to keep going with this. These chapters are so juicy, and I'll keep right on with this book. The chapters are so juicy. Check back lots, because I'm going to post lots of videos, lots of shorts. We're going to keep working our way through it. I'm loving it. I hope you are too. I thank you all so much. So many of you said that my book reviews are some of your favorite videos. That means more to me than I can possibly say. They're some of my favorite videos too. It's a lot to go through these books, but I am very much enjoying this one. I truly am. And I hope I had a couple people say you could really see my personality in these. That makes me so happy. Thank you. I had one person say I was too bubbly. Well, sorry, you glitter gimlet. Actually, I'm not sorry. I like being bubbly. I just am. It's fine. I get excited about this stuff. I think there's something so great about the way Tom Bauer writes. I don't see it as just spiteful, hateful writing. He's coming with the facts. He's talked to people. He's done his homework. I mean, he's no dummy, and he's just spelling it out. So if you think Meghan and Harry are horrible, it's probably because they're horrible. So anyway, that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. If you're new here, please do make sure you're subscribed. I'm really pushing to the 200,000 mark. Thank you to everybody who has picked up the new merch. I'm so happy with it. It's so awesome. I really appreciate that. Be sure you check it out. There's a link to all my videos to my merch shop. I have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/Real Housewives Recaps. I'm hitting more of the book over there, so you can check that out if you're interested. And yeah, that's going to do it for me. And stay tuned to the end, because I always do something at the end. So if you're new here and you don't know that, here we go. Ready? So normally I end the video and go, all right, thanks. Have a good day. Bye. And then, hi. This is my favorite part of the video. It's kind of, I always say it's like the car ride after the party, where you're dying to talk crap about the other guests or the host or whatever it is. So you kind of make eyes at each other, and then you get in the car and you're like, oh my God, can you believe that? This is my time to decompress and unwind and be like, oh my God, this book is so good. I'm loving this book. I love talking about it. I love going over it. It's so juicy. I'm really trying to be thorough and do my best to hit all the highlights while moving at a good pace. So let me know your thoughts. I love it. I'm so excited to continue on. In fact, if you want to know, the next 2 chapters are called, number 4 is William and Harry, and number 5 is Briefings. So I can't wait to go into those. I'm planning to do 2 at a time. If any of them are extra long, I might just do 1 chapter. If any of them are short or boring, then I don't like boring. So we'll do a couple of chapters. But right now, the 2 chapters pace is going well. I hope you're enjoying it. But that's going to do it for me. Please do leave me comments. It helps YouTube to recommend my videos. Hit the hype button, hit the share button. Let people know I've got the book. I'm one of the first in America to have the book, and I'm covering it. And so that might be a way to get more eyeballs on this book. All right. If you stayed tuned, I forgot. I need to do some more shorts. By doing them at the end, it's just easier for me right now. I can just chop them off and make them into shorts. You make them out of your existing videos. That's what I'm doing. So you don't have to watch this part if you don't want, but I'm going to make some shorts out of this part. So if you want to watch me work, you can. Here we go. I know, I sound like a lunatic. I had somebody else say, stop drinking so much caffeine. What? Why would you say I was drinking? Okay, I won't. I can't stop. Okay, here we go. Now I feel awkward with you watching me. Here we go. Okay, guys, I am loving Betrayal so much. I'm on chapter 2 and chapter 3 in my new upload that I just did. Be sure to check it out, because I'm going through and reviewing and recapping the book. So check that out. But in this part of the book, it's super juicy. They go into Meghan and her attitude leading up to the wedding. Remember how she and Harry claimed they had no help? She was given no direction about entering the royal family. Well, Tom Bower details how she had not one, not two, but three advisors at least that were giving her these dossiers and sitting down with her and explaining it. Sounds like there were many other that were trying to help, but these three in particular, he really details how they tried to help her. She wasn't interested. So Harry and Meghan continue to play victim and push that out there, while Tom is convinced it's part of a bigger plan, as am I, that she just didn't want to fit in. It more serves her victim narrative that way. That was juicy. I really enjoyed that part of the book. Let's see here. Okay, I'm in chapter 2 of Betrayal by Tom Bower, the Meghan and Harry book. It's so juicy. Now, in this chapter, he's really diving into the lead up to the wedding and all the things going wrong. Now, he did hit that hard in Revenge, but in this one, he's giving even more story and I believe refuting a lot of crap that Meghan and Harry has said and come out with, when talking about this time, how they were thrown to the wolves and they weren't given any help and all this. Well, he details all the help that they received and that, according to him, Meghan would not adhere to any kind of hierarchy. Again, how does that work? Entering the royal family? I don't know. But that she would threaten to go anytime she wasn't allowed to decide actions for herself. So that was interesting and a way that she would control things. So again, I'm loving this book. Thank you so much, Tom Bower. And check out my channel for more recaps of this book. That was kind of bumpy. Okay, let's keep going. So in chapter 2 of Betrayal, the new Tom Bower book about Harry and Meghan, he is going back over the lead up to the wedding. And this part was interesting. He covered a lot of it in Revenge, but in this one, he says there's a quote in here that said that allegedly Meghan said, quote, "I hope my father won't be coming to the wedding." So again, she tried to turn herself into the victim of that, but it sounds like, as we assumed, she's much more the villain. According to Tom, he was not sent an invitation, nor did Meghan ask a British embassy official to offer him help, as she had in the case of her mother, Doria. So again, such a difference between the two scenarios and more proof, I believe, of Meghan's intentions there. I'm working my way through Betrayal, and I came across one of my favorite quotes so far in the book. In chapter 2, it's page 20, Tom Bower talks about Meghan and says, quote, "She was convinced that she had been created a duchess in her own right. Unrelated to Harry being the Duke, she told this coat of arms designer, 'I want on the coat of arms a songbird with its tongue cut out.'" How sick is that? His belief was that it was laying the foundation for Megxit, for her to claim that she was silenced, all of that stuff. And of course, they're like, no, they ended up putting a sparrow on there. But I'm just telling you, tell me more of a sign that Meghan wasn't pre-planning it than that. I can't think of anything. Okay, I'm continuing my recap of Betrayal by Tom Bower. It's so juicy and so good. Well, in chapter, 3, the tea party, that's the showdown between William and Catherine versus Harry and Meghan. It is so good. It's so juicy. Okay, so this is where Little Miss Feminist Meghan is horrible to Catherine. They go into, again, the who made who cry. It does sound like it was Meghan making Catherine cry, and then Catherine tried to make amends and make it better, even though she didn't need to. She was trying to smooth things over. Meghan made it so much worse. Well, a reminder that Meghan turned to Catherine during this and is alleged to have said, quote, "The cause of their problems was because of Catherine's hormones." So again, the feminist Meghan is blaming Catherine's hormones for Catherine being upset It all stems from allegedly Catherine burst into tears, not only over the dress, but because she had found out about the way that Meghan was alleged to have been treating staff. So, because of that, Catherine was upset. Meghan said, maybe it's because of your hormones. If anybody had said that to a Meghan or anything like that, can you imagine how she would have hit the roof? It's disgusting. Then Meghan is alleged to have said, it's no big deal. It's baby brain. Because a reminder, Catherine had just had Prince Louis. Absolutely disgusting. So I'm continuing my recap of Betrayal, the Tom Bower book about Harry and Meghan, the follow-up to Revenge. And it's so good. In chapter 3, he is really going over the feud between William and Catherine versus Harry and Meghan, and how the allegations of Meghan mistreating staff has really boiled over. It's affecting everybody, and Catherine is very upset by this. She's awesome. I love her. But that is one of the reasons that they, remember the whole who made who cry? That's one of the reasons that they believe that Catherine burst into tears as she found out about the alleged treatment of staff by Meghan, the way she was supposed to be yelling at them and talking to them. And when called out on her behavior, Meghan is alleged to have said, quote, "It's not my job to coddle people." Again, I find that interesting because think about Harry and Meghan, the perpetual victims. Don't they always look for reasons to be coddled? They're awful. And I mean, just more allegations of them being awful to staff. And yet they expect everybody to bend over backwards for them and to basically coddle them, but yet they say things like that. And again, this is the episode where we have Meghan telling Catherine allegedly, maybe it's your hormone, maybe it's baby brain. All I can think of is maybe it's Maybelline. But could you imagine somebody saying that to Meghan? That's essentially saying, oh, you're in a bad mood. Maybe it's PMS. You don't say something like that. And Little Miss Feminist Meghan, of all people, should maybe think about that before saying something like that to a woman. That's just rude and arrogant. And she was, in my opinion, Meghan was trying to hurt Catherine and throw her off by saying terrible things like that. Okay, that's going to do it for me. Yeah, I think so. That's going to do it for me. Thank you guys so much for being here and for watching. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.